Asajj Ventress arrives on Pabu. Omega tests her skills. The team learns some important information and more as the Sky Guys are back to recap the latest episode of The Bad Batch.
All right, we are back here on the Sky Guys, recapping the latest episode of The Bad Batch, The Harbinger, bringing back a very familiar face to Star Wars animation fans. I'm your host, Mike Phillips. Joining me today, as always, man's voice of the generation every single week. Pete Consadori is here. Pete, how are you?
Doing great. Great episode. Excited to talk to you guys about it. And of course, it's always a pleasure to talk to you guys about Star Wars.
Also here with us today, our trusty boat captain on Pabu, Nick Fraietta, is here. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited to talk about this episode and this return and what we all thought about it.
Yep. Also with us here today, we got a great guest with us here. He's down the hall from me on the Millennium Falcon. Max Roberts is here. Max, how are you?
Good, Mike. Happy to be back and making a cameo appearance, just like the star of last week's episode or this week's episode. And always happy to be talking with you guys.
Yeah, so Max has the honor of being our first ever guest for Bad Batch coverage. So, Max, give us a little of your background with this show, what you think of what they've been doing here.
Okay, so I'm all caught up on Bad Batch. I enjoyed season 1. I enjoyed season 2. I guess it's good they're kind of wrapping it up because I never really knew where they were going with the overarching plot or if it was just going to be like a fun action set piece. I've been enjoying it. It's pretty clear that they're building towards some plot threads in episode 9 that were left open. And episode 9, I hate with like a strong fiber of my being. So I don't necessarily like things that tie into it, but I like that they're at least explaining some big holes in that plot. And obviously, I enjoy all the characters. I enjoy their interactions with one another. I'm glad that we get to see a little bit more of Crosshair interacting with the squad, Rip Tech. But I like it. I think it's a good show. It's a good way for the Filoniverse animated series to kind of go out.
Yep, sounds good. Let's get into what we do here. As always, people want to subscribe to the Sky Guys. They can do so Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, Amazon, all the usual suspects. Simply search for the Sky Guys' favorite podcast platforms and episodes there here. And as we close out one show, another is on the horizon. The Acolyte coming in June. So make sure you're subscribed for all the fun stuff we have planned.
Ton of stuff coming. We say it every week. It's like I'm a broker record, guys. Subscribe, please. It's free. You don't need to pay for it. Everything else in this life you got to pay for. You don't have to pay for this. Listen to us every week. Subscribe.
Yep. And Nick, people want to follow us on social media. How can they do that?
You can follow at Sky Guys Podcast. That is on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and TikTok.
Yep. You can also check out the YouTube version. Mike Phillips on YouTube for all the fun props and grabs we have here, including I usually bring out Lego Omega, but today we're bringing out the book here, Dark Disciple, where Asajj Ventress meets her fate originally, and then we can get into what happens with that later on in the show, Max. But like, I did bring the physical book to the podcast today.
Is that Quinlan Voss on the cover?
Oh yes, he's a very big role in this story.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I recommend the book, Max, if you have time. It's a very fun read based on unproduced Clone Wars arc.
Time is a luxury in my life, but I know a lot of the Star Wars books are very highly regarded.
Well, I know you're commuting, guys. Maybe you get the audiobook and listen to it on train rides.
Not commuting, just a lot of working around the clock. Nick's brother really, has me working a lot of the time.
All right, so we'll let that aside here. Nick, we have a little bit of Star Wars news to catch up on. You want to kick us off here?
Yeah, so first is the Acolyte trailer that dropped, I think at this point, 9 days ago.
Yeah.
That's time of recording. It has 51.3 million views in its first 24 hours, which is shattering records. And I don't know what the view count's up to now, but probably a lot more.
I'll look it up real quick here. And Max, since he didn't talk to you last, what did you got the Acolyte trailer?
I'm psyched. Obviously, the High Republic is an era of the Star Wars universe that I think it's been covered more in the EU in the books, but we have never seen on screen. There's a little bit of a flashback to it during Jedi Survivor, but otherwise, you've never seen it visualized. So I think it's really exciting to explore. It'll be interesting to see which characters from kind of the main Star Wars properties, if any, carry over. But I think just being in that part of the universe where you sort of have the Republic at its peak right before the fall, the Jedi, that'll be interesting to see visualized.
Yeah, and for sure, we'll have a fun character draft that podcast because it's a very different board we usually go with.
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I was saying to Pete, we're gonna have a very interesting character draft this time around.
Oh yeah, for sure,
All right.
sure.
Nick, what else we got?
Next, we have the Skywalker Saga Marathon coming to theaters on May 4th. You can watch all 9 movies. And I see you wrote here, Aaron, Nick's case, watch the first 6 and walk out. So, how long is that?
I gotta think it's probably like at least 18 hours.
So I've watched 6. I've watched 6 in a day, and it was over 12 hours, I think.
I feel like each one is like 2 to 2:15.
Yeah. And then obviously when you're watching it, like it's not like as soon as the credits hit for one episode, you're immediately starting. There's at least 5-10 minutes in the middle. So like that was a lot. So
Yeah.
to do 9, I can't imagine, even if they were good.
Yeah, and Nick would do the power move and say, you know what, like I'm out after 6.
I honestly, even though obviously I love the original trilogy, my favorite trilogy, I would leave after 1 or 2. I couldn't sit in the theater for that long. It's crazy.
So
All
Have them at home.
They're coming to a theater. You have to sit in the theater and you have to watch for 18 hours straight Star Wars.
if you want to.
Seems a lot. It's like you sleep and you go straight there. You just binge all 9 movies in a row.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Nick, what else we got?
Star Wars Celebration 2025 in Tokyo. Tickets are going to go on sale May 2nd and May 3rd. So if you guys are planning to go to Tokyo, get your tickets.
Max has a business trip planned already.
Yeah, I have to find some cases to bring in Japan. I know someone who's going to that though, and I would love to go. That sounds awesome.
And lastly, Liam Neeson does not think he'll ever play Qui-Gon Jinn again in live action because he's, quote, too fucking old. Now, did he not play Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan? Was that archive footage?
No, that was him.
No, that definitely was him.
No, I know, but was that 2021, 2022 Liam Neeson, or was that archived?
It was 2021, 2022 Liam Neeson.
Oh, all right. Well, I mean, he just did it, and he's not much older.
I guess that was his last time that he'll play it. Now he's too old.
All
Yeah,
right. What is he, like 70?
That last 2 years got him.
I think he's like 70 now, about.
Yeah, about.
No way.
He's still in I just saw a commercial today. He's in more action movies.
He's 71. Okay. I did not know that. They could always de-age him. You know, they could have like a body double and they could just de-age the face or put on Liam Neeson's like CGI face like they did with Carrie Fisher or Mark Hamill.
I'm going to say Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny when they did that too.
I have not seen Dial of Destiny, but it's the same technique.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that. Like, it's kind of nice to see the characters continue, but also like, you know, maybe
Recast.
Recast. Yeah.
Nick, is that on the news department?
Yeah, yes, it is.
All right, so let's dive into this episode here, The Harbinger. General thoughts here, Pete, on what we saw. This episode aired yesterday on date of recording. So what do you think about what we got in this episode?
I mean, I think we got as much as you would expect when we see the return of this character. There's not a metric ton of information we're given. I think it's more so not fan service, but it kind of just gives it that little bit of we're gonna bring a little. I don't want to spoil anything yet. But look,
if you're not realizing it, you watch the episode.
Sure. So I mean, it's good. We get a filler episode of really, really great content that I don't think drives the story too far along, if that makes sense. I feel like last week we had filler content that does drive the story along. This one was kind of like, this is super cool to watch, but if this never happened, it would be fine.
Yeah, like they took a 2-second answer made into a 20-minute episode, in my opinion, Nick, in terms of like, here's what M count is. And then they sent Ventress in to say, okay, like, let's see if you're actually force sensitive. And I'm going to test you. And that was basically the premise of the entire episode.
I agree. I thought this was a scene that was stretched into an episode.
What was the term we used off air? You said this is jingle keys?
Yep. That's exactly what it is. I was going to use that a little bit later on in the in the show here. But yes, it's Jingle Keys. It's look at this.
Yeah, and we haven't done that in a while on Bad Batch.
When was the last time? I mean, even when we have Rex, it's not Jingle Keys.
Season 1, they had a lot of like jingle keys, like, oh, here's somebody random from Clone Wars. Woohoo!
Here's Fennec at the time that was Jingle Keys when it was her. When it was what's his name showed up, Cad Bane. Like you've had returns in this show, like what, like or cameos. The Emperor was a cameo in what episode 1, episode 2, whatever it was.
Yeah,
It wasn't like that though. It was different. It made sense with the story. Not that this doesn't make sense, but I mean, it kind of doesn't make sense considering the book report you'll supply later.
yeah.
I agree with Nick now that like the part that Asajj Ventress was supposed to answer was what is M count, and that answer came within like the first 5 minutes of the episode, and then they're like, let's see what else we can do. And I don't know that necessarily drives the plot forward or not, right? Like we don't know if Omega's force sensitive. We still don't know. Like, I mean, I guess we know why, but the characters don't know why the Empire is testing this. It's still a great mystery, and so it feels like a lot of filler, enjoyable filler, but filler.
Yeah, and Max, in terms of the jingle keys, like one thing I thought of immediately was I think in the second episode of season 1, when they go find like the random clone who defected and had a family on the farming planet, like that was definitely a jingle keys.
Was that Gregor?
No, it wasn't Greg. It was that one random clone who like decided I'm gonna have a family instead of fighting the war.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, they definitely have a little bit of that, like the callbacks, or even in the last, or the 2 episodes ago, they had Wolf, and they obviously had Rex with that whole arc, Echo. I still think that kind of pushes the plot, right? But it's enough of this one didn't seem like I guess I'm just like, okay, like let's get to the point already, right? Like let's get to the point, let's do something with it. Maybe this should have been a shorter season than I don't know, it was gonna be 10 episodes or 12 episodes.
15.
50. Oh my God. Like, how long are you going to drag this out? What are you going to do with another 6 episodes?
Yeah, yep, for sure here. So let's get into this a little bit here. So Ventress to get her bigger rival here because Omega finds her ship hiding in the cave on Pabu here. We're gonna sort of yada yada. A lot of this plot here is very, like as Nick says, a scene stretch from an episode a little bit here. Ventress basically tells them that she's Fennec's contact, as we theorized last week, and basically demands what they want to know about the M count. So we got our answers here because Omega does a very bad job here of being like slick because she basically says, "Oh, you're talking about me, aren't you?" And then it's like very bad, like sort of like stealth questioning from Omega.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible. I thought she had it there for a moment, and then it just came right out. I was like, "I'm a Jedi. I mean, my friend. Sorry. Whoops." Yeah, no, it was really bad. But I mean, for Omega's age, I think she was just excited to hear that it was a possibility, and she slipped up. So really, really bad on her part. But at this point, the Empire's after her anyway. Could prove to be a problem later on, but we'll see.
To be fair, Max, they have no idea who Ventress is. Like she could have been sent by the Empire for all they know.
Yeah, although I agree with Pete that if I was 8, 10 years old, I guess no, Omega is not technically 8 or 10 years old, right? Like she's older than the Bad Batch, but she ages normally.
Yeah.
And she said, okay. Well, anyway, if I was a kid and I heard I might be a Jedi, I would get really excited too. I'd be like, I'm a Jedi? What? So I get it. But yeah, Omega divulging, like giving away that the secret sauce, not a good look, not very stealthy, obviously. But you know what? She is being hunted. Asajj Ventress found her, and even if she was a good liar, I'm sure Asajj Ventress could figure it out.
Yeah, Nick, good points for Asajj Ventress here finding this planet. No one else is easy able to find in the galaxy other than Fee Genoa.
For sure. For sure. I mean, we're all thinking it at this point. We're all looking at the episode, we're seeing her, and we're just like, how are you here? Tell us how you're here. And we don't,
Oh, I gotta get to that. But we'll save that one for a bit here. We do get some testing here where Omega asks Ventress help her figure out what her M count is after they explain what this is. And she basically tests her in 3 different ways in terms of like her ability to balance, some speed, her ability to commune with animals here. So in terms of the testing here, we got 3 tests just like our favorite film, The Last Jedi, Max.
Yeah, I also, the test on the water really reminded me of the scene with Luke and Yoda on Dagobah,
Yeah.
where like Luke's like, "You're asking me to do the impossible," and Yoda lifts the X-wing, and Omega's kind of pulling that Luke role of like, "What do you want me to do? What am I reaching out to?" And then Asajj Ventress summons the like stingray-looking things, and then the big crab thing.
Yeah.
You notice how its eyes? I don't. This was like a weird thing with that creature. I don't know if I know the name of that creature, like the crab-looking thing, but its eyes look like its mouth.
Yeah.
Like if you pull up like a graphic, like the way that its eyes look and they like open and close, it looks the same as its mouth. And I couldn't like when I was watching, I was like, is that its mouth? Is that his eyes? I just like I got lost. I got lost in the design.
Yeah. You couldn't unsee it.
I could not see it.
Yeah, and Pete. So basically, we see here that she flunks the balance test. She passes the speed one by like working at Batcher, get up there and get this lotus plane off the tree before the sun goes down here. And then she has, I'd say, what is it, 50-50, you feel like, on the ocean one?
I would say fail on the ocean one. Did she even do anything? I don't even know it's 50-50. I think she just blatantly just didn't do shit.
Yeah.
I just put it blatantly. I think Asajj Ventress proved her point, and I think that finally got Omega to, obviously believe her, but I don't think she did much there.
Yeah, we'll get back to this oceans up in a second here. And while Omega runs off trying to get this white flower here, basically Ventress warns the Bad Batch that what they're messing with is not going to end well here. And she like ends up having to have a big fight with the team here because Crosshair goes and looks up in the Republic record, like, hey, who is this person? And it's like, oh, this is Ventress. She was a Separatist assassin. And she basically kicks their asses in a fight using a lot of forced karate skills and has the opportunity to basically finish all of them and chooses not to.
Yeah, a highlight of the episode, in my opinion. Good. It was needed. Like someone had to recognize her because they were all around during the Clone Wars, or at least, yeah, they all were. Even Omega, but I mean, she wasn't involved in the war, but yeah, they were all involved. So it was waiting. You were waiting for that to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Someone to be like, hey, who is this? And this is exactly what happened. And we got ourselves a good fight, and it was really exciting to see. Honestly, it was the highlight of the episode, in my opinion.
Pete, were you like interested to see that you got the yellow lightsaber from Ventress?
It was interesting. Is that lore explained in the book?
I know in the book she has the yellow lightsaber.
Right. I mean, and also, Quinlan Voss has a yellow lightsaber too, just in lore as well. Am I correct on that? Not to.
I think his was green. I'm pretty sure.
Green. Okay.
I thought his was green too.
So yeah, no, it's definitely cool. Did you guys feel like the animation was a little too fake on the fights?
It's a little cartoonish.
It just seemed like I feel like if they just slowed down each punch or the maneuvers, it would feel a little bit better. But they may have been trying to go the way of Clone Wars, where Clone Wars was a lot of that fast-paced, fast-moving thing. So it could have been just an homage to that.
I think they were trying to show how agile Asajj Ventress was and like how quickly she was moving and just her ability to like take down these clones with ease. She does have the same lightsabers that she previously had, right? She has the curved blade; it's just a different color.
Yeah, it's not a red crystal anymore; it's a yellow one.
Right, and that's never explained in the book. Like you don't see how she got the yellow one.
I believe it's like there's a rep line there about like how like yellow is more her color. Like basically after like she's gone basically from like dark side to more mercenary, and then she's heading towards the light by the end of the book.
Interesting. Okay. I think maybe then she would have like a white lightsaber like Ahsoka, but
yeah, don't forget this is the only other yellow one we've seen like in like actual like media besides the Acolyte trailer was Rey's lightsaber at the end of episode 9 was yellow.
Yeah, a question I have is, and I know this is an answerable question, so one of you might know the answer. I don't though. If you're a Jedi and you turn to the dark side, we didn't get to see this with Anakin because he lost his saber, but do you get a new saber or do you replace the crystal?
I believe you have to replace the crystal.
But we didn't see that with Anakin because obviously he lost his saber. Like Dooku, for example, was that in Tales of the Jedi? Did they show him getting a new saber or crystal?
It looked like the same saber, just like the crystal was different.
So I wonder if all Jedi, when they turn Sith, get a new saber entirely.
Isn't it? So sorry, isn't it the corruption of their crystal that turns it red. It's not an actual red kyber crystal.
I believe you're right about that. Yeah, too. So do they take it out, put it in a new saber, or do they just like continue with the current one? I don't really know
I
that
thought
answer.
it looks like Dooku actually has the same saber in Tales of the Jedi. Like,
I think he does. I think he just corrupts his crystal at that point.
There wasn't a scene of that happening, though, was there?
no, like
just-
in the fight with Yaddle in Tales of the Jedi, he still has a blue saber.
So I guess Ventress would then actually have the same saber. And do you uncorrupt a crystal?
At that point, probably have to get a new one.
So when did she get a new one?
Think so.
I
All
mean,
these questions.
I mean, she's on her own. She's resourceful. She could probably go steal one from somewhere.
It happens more than you'd think.
It's
People
true.
switching sides, it seems very often.
Yeah, it's true here. And we do see here that at this point, like the bad Omega gets back with the flower by the time this fight ends, and they're basically, hey, you know, like you don't know who she is. She's dangerous. And Omega basically says to Max, like, hey, like we gave you a chance and you changed. Why don't we give her a chance and see if she changed here? So I do think that was interesting here. Like she appeals to, hey, like we let Crosshair back in the gang. Who knows? Maybe she's turned over a new leaf. This mysterious person I just met 3 minutes ago.
The wisdom and the naivety of a child.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of her, is that she's like the idealist of the group.
Yeah.
So it fits.
It does fit. And we do see here that I do think the other cool scene is like when they're out on the ocean, Pete, and they're like trying to communicate with the creatures here. Asajj like shows how before she basically summons all like these eels to come by the boat. And then she accidentally summons the big like thing with the weird eyes that Max can't get out of his head. So I did think it was fun that like the Bad Batch come in, they try and just blow the thing up, and she's like, stop, you guys are making it worse. Omega convinces them to leave, and then she can basically communes with it with the Force and gets it to calm down and increase Max having it more with the eye thing. So I do
The
think
eye mounts.
yeah, the eye bounce. So I do think this is a cool moment for Asajj. Like a very like Ezra Bridger sort of like what do you call forward a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, this is I mean, the first thing I thought of was Ezra Bridger, but I find it so interesting how trusting they are.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase that. Omega is. Not to say she's seen everything that the Bad Batch has seen, but I feel like at this point in her life in this show, she should probably be a little bit more weary of strangers, especially ones that are wielding lightsabers that were also assassins for a separatist movement who were against them. It's a whole thing that she's just kind of letting go, and I just feel like she knows better. So I find that very interesting that she's so trusting and telling the Bad Batch, hey, she got it. Don't worry about it. We need to trust her.
The thing with the separatists, though, in this era of the universe, is that they're as much a victim of the war as the clones were too. Like
No,
they
agreed.
weren't really bad guys per se; they were just kind of pawns in a greater game.
Yeah.
Like Asajj, she has that quote that she's like, "We both fought in the same war and we both lost." Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's fair.
she really says Max right. She really does say that to them in the middle of the fight. It's like, hey, like we were on opposite sides. We both ended up losing the war. This empires came out of this and just whooped both of us.
Right. They're both pawns, and obviously, like the clones fought against Asajj, but at the end of the day, like neither of them was. I mean, they're both kind of being used, and I think there's like a little bit of a camaraderie with in that sense.
Yeah.
I want a story. Maybe this is something they could put in Andor, or they should have, or maybe they will. The story of like a separatist who goes on to be a rebel.
Don't they have? Was it? I think it's this season where like the former separatist senator meets with the Republicans, the Republic senator with the blue skin. I can't remember.
Yeah. Chuchi.
Yeah. So they kind of are having that. Like there's.
Yeah, I
like
want to see that in live action in Andor and see that one of them like joining the rebellion and being like, "Hey, we were right," you know?
Yeah.
The separatists were right. You heard it here first.
Yeah. made it lecture Karn along the way.
Was Ryloth a separatist planet?
No, I think it was being like taken over by the separatists.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say because we have Hera and that whole thing, but okay.
Yeah, Ryloth was Republic, but they were like there was a lot of back and forth.
Right.
All right, so we do see here after they get back here to the base here, Asajj, we found like basically lies something and says, hey, you don't have a big enough MCON. I don't know why they're after you. sends Omega off, and then like Hunter's like, "You're lying to her, aren't you?" And she's like, "Yes." He's like, "What? Like, if like this, what she has to be trained. There's something you guys can't teach her. Like, so you're putting her in danger by having her hang out with you." So basically, she gives them the warning shot here, like, you guys and her is not going to be a thing forever here because this is not going to work out if she needs to follow her true potential. So, what do you think about that, Max?
So I wasn't sure if she was lying about not knowing why they were seeking her or not knowing that she is an M count, but it is true, right? That in theory, if you're a Jedi, if you're force sensitive, you need to harness that gift. I mean, that was a plot thread in The Mandalorian. That's a plot thread throughout all the Star Wars movies. That if you have this potential, you need to harness it. And these clones, right? They're involved in the rebellion. They're being hunted. And Omega's probably safer with Asajj, who's been able to, in spite of being like a Jedi, Sith, whatever, has been able to avoid detection seemingly by the Empire. So maybe she's right. You know, that Omega does need to go off and do this potential and realize her potential. I'm wondering though how you make a clone with force sensitivity. Like, is that just happened by chance? Like, did the Kaminoans engineer it? Is that something we're gonna learn?
Nick, I believe that they said that the Cabinars are experimenting with different sort of like models for clones, and this may be one thing they were trying.
Yes. No, I think you're right. They tried a whole bunch of different combinations, if you will.
Yeah.
But if the template is Jango Fett, like what are the other parameters? Are they going to be like we spliced Jango Fett's DNA with Jedi blood or something like that?
I think that's exactly it.
Yeah, I believe it's probably went to someone in the council. Hey, can you borrow some of your blood for a test here?
I think it's literally like genetic mutation based on the DNA and little piece of DNA and other things. Like what was the movie? Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Didn't they do that?
With Rocket.
Yeah, with the different animals, right?
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say this is like real life. This is like Star Wars X-Men.
Star Wars X-Men. It'd be, I mean, I guess that's kind of how you get the Bad Batch, right? It's like you have these defects, and therefore they get these additional strengths or abilities that the other clones don't have. So maybe a defect is
Even Boba and Omega, like they're still clones, but they are genetically mutated in some way.
right.
Or I guess they're not genetically mutated, but everybody else is.
Boba's not. Everybody else is.
Right, like Boba and Omega. Well, I guess Omega is too, but like Boba's just a pure clone. Everybody else is mutated in some way.
Yes. All right, so I think we've hit the episode to death here because, like, basically, Asajj Ventress flies off here and leaves them thinking about what they got to do here. So let's get into the book here, the Dark Disciple of it all, in terms of what happened here. So,
Wait, before we do that, can I just share my screen of this creature? Because like I really want to. I'm
Sure.
curious what the audience thinks. Hold on, I think you have to share it.
Let me see here.
Hold on.
I just changed the setting here, so you should be able to share now. So,
All right, let's try. I can share this now. Okay. Right, like that's a mouth, like right there. Right. That's not an eye. That's a mouth. But then that's the mouth, but that looks the same as the eye. Like
That's 100%. That's 100% eye. The black part's the pupil. It's just a weird looking pupil. Like, you know how like goats have like that square pupil or whatever it is. I think the mouth is like that front part.
Oh, dude, that's weird. Okay. But here the mouth looks like the
It's the
eye.
goat squid.
I can't get it out of the goat squid. I can't get it. Like, I cannot unsee. I'm like, does this have like mouths on the other side? Does it have like, I can't do it.
yeah. So, Pete, would you rather hang out with the goat squid or the hermit crabs that Ezra meets on Peridea?
I mean, probably the hermit crabs.
Yeah.
They seem like they're fun.
Yeah. They seem like they have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, did I like it when it first popped up in the show? No, but they seem like a fun group.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I don't have to guess what part is their eye and their mouth. Like we know, so.
Yeah. All right. So now we took the detour to the goat eyes here. Let's get to the book here, the Dark Disciple here. So I'll give you the brief summary here about what happens to Ventress in this book and why it's, I think, a problem that they did not address how she's here. So basically, the thrust of the book is that the Jedi Council decided enough's enough. We have to assassinate Count Dooku to end the war. and they say, okay, we're gonna send Quinlan Voss out to do the job, but he needs to go work with someone who can get him close to Dooku. Henceforth, he works with Ventress. They form a close partnership. They end up falling in love. Dooku captures Quinlan when they basically invade Sereno, try and kill him. They basically, he gets turned by Dooku, doesn't realize it. Ventress does. The council, in their great wisdom, says, "Oh no, he's fine," and then they send him back to finish the job. He flips again, tries to bring Ventress along so they can escape together here. She gets to realize the error of his ways. And when they're trying to escape a attack force of Anakin, Obi-Wan, and clones on a planet here, Dooku says, you know what, enough's enough. He tries to kill Quinlan with Force Lightning. Asajj jumps in the way, takes the brunt of the Force Lightning, dies, and basically, turns the light, and she gets buried in the waters of Dathomir. That's the book. And we have no explanation of how she is back.
Wait, she's electrocuted to death
By Dooku.
and then is just like, here she is, like 5 years later, 3 years later, whatever it is.
And this allegedly takes place about a week. The book ends about a week before Revenge of the Sith, allegedly.
Okay, and then Bad Batch were like still in
Right
19 or in 1817-ish.
So this is like a year.
Yeah, I actually don't know where we are.
I think this is about a year afterwards. I
I think
think
we're about a year after Revenge of the Sith at this point, right?
Yeah, because I think the seasons are about like 6 months apart. I think.
The show begins in 19 BBY.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely started there, but we've had some time jumps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've also they mentioned one thing. She said something along the lines of like, "I have more lives," like something like a cat. Or what was it? The line?
I
have more lives, something like that.
Yeah. I think the thing is, I think they want you to imply that like she was sort of resurrected in the waters of Dathomir. I think that's what they're trying to just do the homework, the shortcut of. But like, it would be nice if somebody said something about this, not to leave you sitting there going, "What?"
Well, that's for the future book and Ventress show to explain.
Yeah. So, Pete, did it bother you that we got Ventress, no explanation of like what happens now? You know what happened to her in the book.
Yes and no. You mentioned the Wars of Dathomir, right? Like, I feel like anything can happen on Dathomir. We knew what happened to Darth Maul, but yet we were not upset that he came back as this psychopathic half spider dude, in Clone Wars. So I can't justify being mad at it. It's Star Wars. It's fantasy. We're talk about light swords, like I always say, and flying through space. So I think that in canon, something else needs to be maybe said just to explain. Like, I'm not mad about it.
Yeah, I think they need the explanation at some point, Max, because honestly, people who like read the book here, they kind of just go, eh.
Yeah, I'm reading.
Did you really throw it?
Yeah, I read through it.
Oh,
I'm reading the Wikipedia entry, and it just sort of skips from like she dies, and then it's just like after her death, Ventress continued her travels covertly, and I'm like, okay, like how does she come back then? Like that's just like a huge gap. I do see yellow lightsaber she apparently buys on the black market.
Yes.
So that is how she gets her new lightsaber. That is in fact explained, but the being dead and then no longer being dead, that seems like a big plot hole that needs to be filled.
Can I ask a question? And
Sure.
I feel like maybe it's just me, but like, does it bother anyone else that fans just can't be accepting of the content that we're getting? Like, I don't want to say that if something blatantly is just retconned and there's no explanation, like blatant, right? Not like, oh, it's in a book that you may have read or whatever. I can understand that. But like for something like this, I feel like if there's any outrage or anything like upsetness about it, it's kind of grow up, like we're talking about Star Wars. Like, if I knew she died in the book, she's back, the first thing I'm going is, oh my God, she's back. Not, why is she back? This is ridiculous. I hate this, So I don't know. I feel like people get very negative and too about the details about a fantasy genre of media here.
I think
Am I the only one that feels that way?
I think the issue they run into is not so much retcon in the book. The fact they're like, they made it very clear when they went to trial. It's like, oh, this respects what happened in Dark Disciple, and they did no attempt to explain it.
We still got more episodes.
I think you can accept the Star Wars content that's being put out and not get annoyed if it's different than what you expect, but you can also ask questions. Like, I think it could be, oh, it's cool that Asajj
Sure.
Ventress is back, but like, why is she back? Are they going to explain that?
For
I guess
sure.
eventually, maybe, but I wish that they did.
I mean, so I guess my question is too, does anyone know how Maul became that spider dude? Was
I
that
guess
ever
they say
explained?
what, that he like hauled himself on the like the trash compactor to whatever planet. I forget what planet he ends up on from
Was
the
was that in Clone Wars? Because I can't remember. I got to be honest with
I
you.
was
So I'm not
all I know is
No,
we just by the time we see him, he has the spider legs on.
right.
correct.
But if we have no explanation, where's the why are we not asking for answers there? That's the only point I'm trying to make,
I
right?
think the difference is like that they gave there was no like book that said, oh, Maul did this and Maul stayed dead. As opposed to like here, like Asajj died, he has a big sacrifice moment, and they kind of feel like some people, oh,
Sure,
she is the sacrifice if she's resurrected for whatever
sure.
Tony wants to do.
I think that's the problem with books. I feel like you have to pretty much write out what's going on, and well, not pretty much. That's what a book is, but you have to write it out. So you have to say like they died, or you have to explain it to an extent that kind of pigeonholes you a little bit, other than visual media where you can kind of leave things a little open ended.
I'm with you, Pete. I think that I think I'd be annoyed if it was never explained, but I think it will be explained, and we could be patient with it. No one seemed to freak out when Boba Fett returned out of nowhere in The Mandalorian, and then a few episodes later, actually, I think it took until the Book of Boba Fett to learn how he lived.
Yeah.
That is
So,
true.
like, that's all right. I don't, as long as they explain it at some point, I don't really mind.
Yeah.
To me, it's not retconning; it's expanding on the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe I saw the presses they put out the day the episode released, basically where it said that it was Filoni's idea to resurrect Ventress. He's no shock because she's one of his favorite characters. And I believe they said that like that her fate and how she's there is gonna be explained in future stories here. So question of the panel here. What is the future stories we're doing with Asajj Ventress here? Is it more here? Is it somewhere else? Like, what do you think we're doing with Ventress, Pete?
She shows up in the Mandalorian at some point. I don't know. I'm kidding. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be. Whether it's later on in the season, they have a talking moment between Ventress and Omega again. Whether it's some other project within the timeline, I can't say. I don't know.
I don't think it'll be in a show or a movie. I think it'll be a book series of sorts,
Comic?
or showing up in Jedi Survivor, maybe, or
How
whatever they call it,
popular
Jedi 3, whatever they decide to call it.
how popular is Asajj Ventress like amongst the Star Wars community? Because I think that gauges whether she would get like a show for herself or if she gets a book.
I know
think-
the internet got when they saw her in the trailer. I know that.
I would say she's literally exactly in the middle popularity, in that a lot of people don't know her because there's not a lot of people. There are a lot of people out there who have not watched any of the animation, but there's a lot of people who have. People who have love her as a character. So I think it's pretty much like directly in the middle. Like if you're a Star Wars fan, I would say there's a 50-50 shot, Asajj Ventress.
So maybe if they have like a lull and they want to roll out some more content, they'll do like another animated show with Ventress, but she's not the top priority, right? Like she's not the Acolyte or another season of Andor or Mando.
I have two theories on what they're going to do with Ventress here. They're different than Nick's here. Number one, I think we set a potential here for another animated show where it's the adventures of Omega and Ventress sort of navigating the galaxy. If we are right that the rest of the team does not make it, this is where Omega ends up. I feel like Omega is important. Or option two, she's in some sort of Tales of the Jedi thing where they give her a couple of shorts, sort of explain her story and where she is.
That'd be cool. Tales of the Jedi type.
Very good options. I think
Yeah.
the big problem, which is the big criticism now of Dave Filoni.
Yeah.
So if you look at like the timeline, it was like sequel movies are no good, like 2017, 2018, 2019, around those times. But all Star Wars fans loved Dave Filoni. It was like, we can all agree this guy knows what he's doing. And now, here we are 5, 6 years later, a lot of big time Star Wars fans can't stand Dave Filoni anymore, especially those hardcore critical fans. And their reasoning is, which I'm starting to see and agree with, he can't write with other characters that are not his precious legacy characters.
Yeah.
He has to keep Ahsoka alive forever. He has to keep Asajj Ventress alive forever. It's like all these characters that he just can't learn how to write another character, it seems like.
He has his favorites.
He has his favorites, and he can't really do much without them.
Yeah.
So I can see what people are getting from. In that sense, I can see why people are frustrated. It's like, do something else, move on. But in terms of like, oh, this is retconning the story, I don't mind that because, like, until something's explained, everything retcons the story.
Yep.
Ahsoka's a huge retcon, but it's explained.
Well, Tales of the Jedi, I think, retconned a book that has Ahsoka in it.
So.
Would you consider Ahsoka dies? No, that's different because he came back in the same episode. Never mind. That's not really a retcon, but if like a season, like in Game of Thrones, when Jon Snow dies, is it a retcon that he comes back?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess it would be like if Jon Snow dies and then 2 seasons later, all of a sudden you see him and it's like, how did he get there? And they have to, it's not a bad thing.
True, but the point I'm making is like in the he's still dead.
Yeah.
Oh, he never comes back in the books.
Game of Thrones books, that's where it ended.
He's dead. And
then in the show, they're like, I mean, and everyone's in agreement that's gonna happen in the next book if the book ever comes out, which I don't think it will, but that's the generally agreed thing is he's gonna come back, but like technically speaking, they retconned the book in the show by having him come back.
Yeah.
Or just a different adaptation. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. That it's like now because the show did that, the book has to do it.
Yeah.
All right. So you guys ready to move on here to the stuff we do at the end of the episode here?
Yes.
For the first time ever, Pete, no trackers this episode. Nothing hit.
Crazy. I thought something would have happened, but
I definitely count on you, Mike, for the planet ones, because if you ask me, we're on a new planet every single week. I have no clue. I don't pay attention to it, so thankfully you pay attention to that.
Wikipedia helps. Yeah, and we never left Pabu. We never went to Pabu, so it doesn't count again. All right, so now we don't have any trackers discussed. We'll get to our MVP, LVP board. These are the best and worst characters of the season as rated by us here. So here's
the season or the episode?
The seasons. So right now, this is the list of the season, and then we're going to pick for this episode. All right, so here's what we have through 8 episodes here. Crosshair on the top of the board, +5. And Dr. Hemlock, Omega, and Shadow Clone number 2 are in second at +3, tie there. Nalase +2, Fennec Shan +2, Emery Carr +1, Kevin Kiner from Nick Fraietta +1, Hauser +1. Then the negatives, CX1, the first Shadow Clone Trooper who failed his job, -1. Then most of our team, Wrecker -2, Rex -2, Echo -2, Hunter -4, K9 1 -4, and Imperial Security bring up the rear at -6. So that's the board as of right now. So Max, any thoughts before we move on?
A lot of hatred for Hunter and Imperial Security, but definitely, I mean, Imperial Security I get, but Hunter, I mean, damn, guy's he's trying to be a good father type figure.
To be fair, I think 2 of his points came from the one episode that was like very hard to get MVPs too.
Okay.
Like the one where I think it was only like the 5 of them on the planet with Crosshair.
Gotcha. So yeah, then Crosshair was the MVP in that episode. He's been. I agree. I mean, we'll get to the MVPs of the season, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna do an MVP for this episode specifically, episode 9. So that's what we're doing right now. So Nick, starts out. Who was the MVP of the Harbinger?
I think it's Ventress. I think although we can go back and forth for probably an hour on should she be here? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it that she made her presence felt? She was very strong on the episode, and it was a great episode for
her. Max, what do you think?
I agree with Ventress. I mean, she kicked the shit out of the Bad Batch, and it's nice. It is interesting to see her. I am interested to know how she got here, but it is interesting to see her, and I think she adds like a nice bit of Jedi flavor to the series, which doesn't really have a lot of it.
I will go Ventress here as well. One thing I'd say, yes, I question obviously how she's here, but I do like the continued direction she had in the book where she was progressing towards the light side. And we see it here as soon as she's interacting with the creature here and basically calls the Bad Batch off and says, hey, you guys not helping here. And she's able to like calmly communicate with the goat eye fish thing. So that's a good job here for her. So Pete, is it a clean sweep?
MVP goes to the squid. No. Yeah, definitely Ventress. Everyone said everything I was going to say, so we'll keep it nice and short.
All right, so with that, Ventress is now second on the season for MVP. He's right
Wow.
behind Crosshair.
Pretty crazy.
All right, so now we'll go to the LVP section here. Max, who is the worst character in this episode?
I gotta give it to the goat eye squid. I can't get over that design. It's too weird for me.
All right, so Goat-Eyed Squid makes an appearance on the board here, so that'll be a fun one to here. I'm giving it to Omega here because she was very, very gullible this episode here. It's like, I mean, you've been around the galaxy enough, kid, that like you should not trust every single stranger you ever meet and think, oh, they're my new best friend. That doesn't work like that in this life, especially in this empire. So she gets the LVP here. So Pete, where are you going?
Yeah, I'm going Omega as well. I just feel like wrong decisions, too trusting. And honestly, honorable mention, people of Twitter that saw that Disney Plus changed their logo and colors. Like, everyone calm down. It's okay. It's gonna be all right. It's not a big deal.
They
But
did change their logo.
oh
Like,
man. Well, the logo's the same. I don't know. The
the,
animation,
the intro sequence, not a
colors
big deal.
changed. Everyone's freaking out. What are we gonna do? It's the end of the world. Just watch Disney Plus. It's okay. But yeah, Omega for the actual LVP.
Nick, what do you think?
For me, it's someone else we didn't mention. For me, it's Wrecker, in that all of these clones have a genetic mutation. His is being extremely strong, being able to wreck people and things. And they fought Ventress and lost, and Ventress obviously is a great fighter, but like he got his ass kicked just as much as the other two, and his specialty is wrecking people. And he maybe got his ass kicked worse than they did. He was the worst of the three fighters when he's supposed to be the best.
Yeah, I think isn't Omega basically force choking him at the end?
Omega.
I think she's force choking.
I mean,
Sure.
Ventress.
Yeah, no, she is. He's up in the air. He's getting bullied in the fight when he himself should be the bully. I understand they're gonna lose the fight anyway, probably all of them, but he should be the one putting up the best fight, not the worst.
Yeah, that's a fair argument. I can see that, Max.
I was Wrecker was my number 2 behind the goat squid. That he got beat the worst out of all of the Bad Batch characters by Ventress.
All right, so now we're going to the grade section. We're grading the episode on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is worse than 1978 holiday special. 10 is out there with the Prison Break episode Andor for the pinnacle of Star Wars content. I'll give my episode a grade here. I'm gonna give this a 6. I think it was definitely filler. It was fun filler, but as Nick said earlier, this was a scene stretched to an episode. I can't give it higher than a 6 for that. You know, even as much as I enjoyed it. So, Pete, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I think I would have given it a 5 if Ventress wasn't in it, but Ventress kind of kicks it up a notch a little bit for me. So same as you, 6.
Nick.
I'm giving it a 3. I thought this was a terrible episode. Jingle Key episode. If Ventress wasn't in this and it was if it was Sid, I think we would have gave this a 1.
Or if this is a random Jedi we've never met before.
Yeah, I think it was a bad episode. It was this and last episode could have been combined into one episode. And last episode was, as we said, the best filler episode of all time. This one, not quite.
It was not as bad as Death Racing or Treasure Hunting, but your opinion was like not much better.
Yeah, it's we didn't really get anything. We found out what M count is. We already knew that. The audience already knew that. Hunter didn't know that.
Yeah.
So we didn't learn anything.
Yep. And
I guess we learned that Omega might be force sensitive, but we all kind of knew that anyway.
Yep. So this is basically a waste of 20 minutes aside from Ventress.
Yeah.
Max, what do you think?
I'll give it a 6. I mean, I think it was an enjoyable episode, but I agree. It was a scene stretched into an episode. And I feel like I agree with Nick that the last 2 episodes could have been combined, and you know, same comments as everyone else. I'll go to 6.
Nick, like if they made this 10 minutes at the end of the last episode, we had a 35-minute episode instead of 27. Like, you think it would have been better?
Yeah, then last episode would have been a 9, the greatest filler episode in the history of television. But instead, this ended up being last week. I think they gave a 7 or an 8
around there, yeah.
And this one they combine for a 10.
Yeah. All right. So next up here, the last thing here, we're gonna do predictions for episodes 10 and 11, the 2-parter next week. Identity Crisis and Point of No Return of the titles here. So Pete, what do you think is happening next week?
I think Omega is gonna try to flee the group because she thinks she might be a Jedi. And that's the identity crisis part. I'm going to be real original here. And then point of no return is maybe she gets captured again. Maybe there's that and they have to get her back, or they're in a place that they can't get out of. Super descriptive. Hopefully I hit on a very vague description.
All right, so I have Omega try to become the new leader. That's like my headline for Pete.
There you go. That works.
Nick, what do you got?
I'm going another way. I think I'm going the same way that you're going to go, Mike.
Yep.
The identity crisis and the point of no return is for Tech. When we find out he is what do we call it? The Shadow Trooper? What is it?
Shadow Clone number 2.
Shadow Clone number 2. Excuse me, Shadow Clone number 2. And it's an identity crisis for him, and then he reaches a point of no return, and then they're either forced to kill him or I don't know. I guess I don't really see an alternative.
Yeah, so
I guess we'll kill him again.
And that's a Tech Shadow Clone number 2, and he dies again.
I guess. I mean, I don't want to say that, but like if it's point of no return, it makes it seem like he's hit a point of no return. So I don't really see another option.
Max, what do you think is happening?
I like Nick's theory. I'll go a different direction. I think it centers on Wolf, who we know at some point deserts the Empire and becomes a part of the Rebels because he's on that like sand crawler with Rex. So maybe it's an episode that centers on him and him deserting the Empire. And maybe he links up with Bad Batch and gives them the coordinates for Tantus. And so they embark for that facility, which is the point of no return.
Okay. So I'm going to side with Nick. I think I've been beating the drum. They will not leave Tech dead. So Tech is Shadow Clone number 2. And I think we get the happy ending that he realizes like I'm doing is wrong. And then like they unbrainwash him. He comes back to the Bad Batch.
How does that tie into the title though? Point of no return.
It could be a random title just to throw people off the scent also.
Maybe he's the one that gives them the location of Tantus if they turn him.
Yeah. Possible. All right, so our theories are done here for the week. Max, thanks again for coming on here. I really appreciate it. We should get you back on if you got to finish those Clone Wars 03 seasons.
I'm always happy to join for Clone Wars, for Bad Batch. Still waiting for that KOTOR Let's Play.
It's coming. It's on the to-do list.
I'm looking forward to it. That's an all-time classic. And then obviously Acolyte, it's coming in the summer, and I'll be back for that.
Yep.
So we've been going back and forth on news. KOTOR remake still happening or not? I don't remember.
I think
allegedly.
Well, what'd you say, Mike?
Allegedly still happening.
Allegedly, but I think the developer Aspire has been in some heat, and they just re-released the Battlefront Classic Collection, which I was really psyched about because I used to love those games too, and apparently the port of it is terrible.
Yeah, they only put like 4 servers online, which would support like 200 players, and they had 10,000 trying to play.
Right. So they might be in some hot water, and maybe they're not the best developed. I mean, their big strength was always that they could like port games from one platform to the other. So maybe they shouldn't be the ones who are like remaking games. They should give it to like a more experienced developer.
It's just something I feel like if you gave the people behind Jedi Survivor, let them do the combat mechanics, I think this game could be a home run.
Or give it back to like Obsidian or like an RPG developer who can really like run with it. Give it to Larian. Baldur's Gate 3, legendary game.
Get back to BioWare.
BioWare's they haven't been as good lately, but yes.
Yeah.
Maybe vintage BioWare.
All right. So Pete, want to follow you on social media? How can I do that?
At Consy29 on Twitter, CONSY29 on Twitter, and then APTower308 made this background, so make sure you check them out on Reddit.
All right, Nick, one more time. If you want to follow us on social media, how can I do that?
At Sky Guys Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and TikTok.
Yeah, you can also follow me on social media, mphillips331. It's MPHILIPS331. This week on the Justin Suffering Podcast, got not one, but 2 episodes out this week. We had our March Madness recap with Troy Moriello on Monday here. So, Max, you have a bracket for the NCAA tournament.
I do have a bracket. I have to look at how it's doing. I haven't looked at it like all week, but I think it's busted because I picked Kentucky and they got bounced, obviously, in the first round.
Yeah, yours didn't last too long then.
No, mine's did not last too long. Mine never. There's always a spoiler, and I'm always victim to the spoiler.
All right. Also, we had our baseball previews actually dropped on day of recording here. SIY's Anthony McCarron, talk some baseball here. Plus, Nick, your brother Phil came on the podcast. These are MLB over-unders.
I know who he took. I talked to him about it.
Yeah. Do you agree with his picks?
I like one of them a lot, and I did it myself.
Yeah.
A certain team in the AL Central.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about here. And Max, you want to check out that episode? You want to hear what Phil had to say about his baseball teams?
I'd be curious. Phil knows his baseball.
Yep. So that's it for us here. We'll be back next week with a double episode here covering 10 and 11 in the Bad Batch. But until then, everybody, may the force be with you.